Now I'll show you the tools and additional equipment you'll need to assemble the Asgard product. Let's start with the base. The base you'll be putting the sphere on top of just to make sure it stays in place during assembly. Now it's a good idea to put a towel on top of the base just to make sure you don't get any scratches. Next, some of the tools. This is called the fixture plate, and you'll be using this during the assembly. Now we also have a Phillips head screwdriver, a number 4 Allen wrench, and 2 additional wrenches, a number 8 and a number 16. After assembly, you'll want to use an air hose to test the seal. This has an adapter already attached to it. Also, there's a hand pump that you can use. This is a motherboard that we will be using just for the demonstration video. Last thing I want to say is that these 3 parts, the fixture plate and the base, these 2 can be purchased on the website, or you can download the file and use your 3D printer as well. Also, the hose can be purchased online with the adapter already attached. Thank you. Now we move on to the assembly of the Asgard. We begin with the adapters. There are 3 adapters and 9 O-rings that go with it. These are the O-rings, and here we have the adapters. There are 2 ridges on each of the adapters, and also a ridge on the bolt. That is where the O-rings will be going. Before you put the O-rings onto the adapters and bolts, you will want to put some of the grease into the bag with the O-rings to make sure that they're coated evenly with grease. This is the amount of grease that you should be using for the small O-rings. So we open the bag and put a dab inside here. Seal it back up and move them around so that each of the O-rings is covered. Like this. Now we remove each of these, and again we put 2 on each of the adapters. As I said, there are 2 ridges on here. It's easier to put the first one on the outside and the second one will go on the inside. Okay, just like that. Now we move on to the bolt. Same thing, take one out and put it on the groove down at the end of the threads of the bolts. Just like that. Now you do the same thing with the large O-rings and the frame. You need to put some of the grease inside the bag. This time you'll be using as much as perhaps half of the tube here. Again, seal it up, move it around, get everything coated with a thin layer of grease. It will make the assembly of the Asgard much easier and also will provide additional seal. Move it around vigorously. Okay, being careful to get all the parts. Okay. So as you can see, all 4 O-rings are covered with the grease. Okay, now we take the frame. On the frame, there are 4 ridges where the O-rings go. Okay. Start on the outside here, holding one side in place as you run your fingers around the outside. The grease definitely makes it easier. Second ridge here. And the last one. Okay, and this is how you apply the O-rings to the frame and to the adapters, just like this. Now we move on to putting the adapter into the Asgard. So the parts that you'll need are the wrench, the size 16 wrench. You have the seats, the bolt, the nuts, and the fixture plate. And also you have the base. We're using the base because you don't want the Asgard rolling away while you're putting things together. And of course you're going to want to cover the base with a cloth so that you get no scratches. So we put this on here like that. Now the plate is curved on one side just like the inside of the ball. So you put that on there just like that. Take a nut, put it in the side, hold it in place as you line it up. Then you take a bolt and put it in and screw it in. You can tighten it with your hand to begin with, and then tighten it a little bit more with the wrench. Next, we move on with the seat. Now, if you don't want to put the seat in, you can use the hole here to have access to wires. Now, if you do that, you'll need to use an epoxy to seal up the wire. But I will show you how to put the seat in. First, you put it in and push a little bit so that the threads of it can catch the bolt. And we turn it with your hand. Okay. And now I will take this off just so that you can see what it looks like after it's been assembled. To put the other 2 in, again, you will need the plate in place. And repeat the same process. Now, afterwards, if you want, as an option, to make sure that you have a very, very good seal, is you can apply an anaerobic epoxy to the nut and the threads of the bolt. It will hold everything in place. And if you follow these steps, you should have no problems with your adapters. Thanks. Here we have the parts that you will need for the next step in the assembly process. We have the part of the Asgard that has the adapters that go through here already in place, and the other half of the ball which gets placed right on top. Next we have the frame which already has the 4 O-rings in place, and we have a motherboard here. We will be attaching the motherboard into the frame, which we'll be showing you how to attach that next. Next, we will be securing the motherboard to the frame. Now, before you do that, you have to keep in mind, note here that you see the position nodes on the top of the bottom. It's like 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock on a clock, and that will matter as you place it inside the sphere of the Asgard. Things must be aligned. Okay, I'm going to use this as a base just to help me to assemble it more easily. I'll put this on here. And I need to line up screw holes. And I'm using a Phillips head screwdriver. Okay. And it's a good idea to don't put the screws in here, then here, then here, then here. You want to put one in here and then go across and do the other side. It will make sure that things get secured without cracking the frame. And give it a few more twists. Okay, and there you have the motherboard secured to the inside of the frame. Okay, now we'll show you the final steps in assembling the Asgard. I'm wearing gloves because you don't want to get any of the grease from the O-rings on the sphere of the Asgard. You want to keep it looking nice. Also, we removed one of the seats from the adapters so that air can go out as you're applying it together. You don't want too much air pressure on the inside. Okay, so we take the frame and set it in here. And again, you want to make sure that the nodes are lined up 6 o'clock and 12 o'clock as you're putting it in. Very important that everything is lined up. And it's best if you pick it up and make sure that everything is straight. Apply pressure evenly to both sides, pushing it down. And check your alignment. Looks pretty good. Okay, now we take the final piece and put it on here. And you want to put the space for the lights on opposite sides here. And again, line everything up. After you have it in place, just give a final look all the way around to make sure that the O-rings are in place, and it looks like we're pretty good here. All right, next we'll be putting the bolts in place. Okay, and we'll be using the number 8 wrench and the number 4 Allen wrench. So we take a bolt and a nut, put this in here, and hold the nut in place. You can screw it with your hand to begin with. Okay, and use the Allen wrench to get it started, and then hold the bolts in place with the wrench. Now, when you're tightening the next one, you want to go on the opposite side. And again, hold it with the wrench. Next, go, again, not right next to it, to keep alternating sides. One more. Okay, once they're all in place, go around and give final tightening. Not too tight though, because the water pressure as it goes further down will provide some pressure. And so you don't want to over tighten it and strip the pieces. Okay, it looks like we have all the bolts in place, and now you have your Asgard assembled.